President paused it for 6 months from Iraq. 6 months, and I didn't hear anything about that, a Muslim ban or anything like that. But the reality is, it's a majority Muslim country in Iraq as well too. So, like I said, I think that, and people, I know there are people on both sides of this issue, and they want you to take a harder stance. If they're against it, they say, I want you to, fight against the president, and then there's people that are for it that I want you to take a harder stance. I will tell you, there's a couple things, and this is nuanced, but this is how I feel, and I will back this up, and I'll talk about this all the time. I don't support a Muslim ban. I think that the way that this policy was implemented was very flawed. Very, very flawed, and there's legit criticism for that. Absolutely. I think that the president, I hope that this administration learns that they need to have subject matter experts review these types of orders if they're going to submit one. And I also think that they need to obviously let the department heads who are actually going to implement the policy, they need to know about it so that it doesn't affect, or it has as little effect as possible on people. Now, some people might be out there talking about green cards, the folks who have green cards and folks who have legal status. I think they were wrong. I think and that could have been dealt with had they went to the department heads first. So I think there was some incompetence, quite frankly, in this administration in implementing that policy. And I hope they've learned their lesson, and I hope that they won't do it again. But I know that they have taken care of the green cards and folks who have legal status to not have them. And I will tell you that if there's anyone in my district, we stand ready to help them out anytime at night, anywhere. We will help them if they're affected by this and help them navigate through this policy. But that's basically where I stand on this. And I mean, I don't know if there's any follow-on questions. I'm happy to answer any follow-on questions.
I think this is something that kind of connects to you a little bit more personally. What about, we've heard about Johnny Walker and translators, for example.
So that's a good one. So there are many people here in our district, right? And let me say that, I'm so proud to be able to represent our district, which has more veterans and military than anyone in the nation. And, we have worked beside foreign nationals in war, in Iraq, and in other countries as well, too, who have spilled blood for us, quite frankly. And one of my good friends, his nickname is Johnny Walker, who was basically a turnover item. And there might be some of you watching out there who work with Johnny Walker. And he supports stronger vetting for refugees. Now, listen, that the one Iraqi interpreter was eventually let through. And via the text of the order, it clearly says that the secretary, actually on case-by-case, can deal with it. Now, I obviously support those folks coming over here, for sure, just like Johnny Walker. I mean, I support him 100%. But I think that again, poor implementation, it affected people, and I think that moving forward, you will still have people who may have additional screening. But that being said, I want to tell you, I went over to Yemen probably 10 times, 9 or 10 times on trips over 4 years, and every single time I came home, I had additional screening. Every time. It was a pain in the butt. Don't get me wrong. I didn't like it, and I hated it because I'd see the same people, but I understood why they were doing it. So I think it is important. It's important that if people that have difficulties with this policy, that shouldn't be, that the administration step up and make it right really quickly.
Another one of the big issues that we faced since we started about a month ago and that Donald Trump has been talking about for a significant amount of time is, what do you do with the Affordable Care Act? What is the process in place that's happening now, and where is it going?
So I think, we've been saying for a long time, as many people, both the people who support it and the critics have said, Republicans have said repeal and replace. And let me preface this by saying, when I was in my primary, I was attacked by my own party because I said, listen, if Hillary Clinton wins the presidency, Affordable Care Act is here to stay. So what Republicans should do is not just say repeal and replace, but they should actually work with Democrats to be able to help people, to be able to actually reduce the health care insurance and create more accessibility for people. And I was actually attacked by my own party for saying that. Now, the same is true now that there's a Republican president, that I would say to Democrats that are watching out there as well too. There will be changes. There will be changes in it, and when you hear the word repeal and replace, or the phrase, you think it's one thing. And I understand that, but it's actually not one thing. The repeal is going to be via reconciliation. The replace is actually going to be a combination of things. And many of you out there may remember with Secretary Kathleen Sebelius, it seemed like she was like writing the law as she went because she had the power to. So there are a lot of executive actions as well too that are going to be undertook once the president has a secretary. Once he or she is confirmed, they will have the authority and the flexibility to do a lot of things from the executive side, and then the legislature will have to do the same thing. Now, I think there was a leaked audio, and we were in Philly, and there were the Republican caucus, and there were people who had concerns, and that's rightfully so. It's a very complex and very important thing, and I think the paper was trashing the Republicans for having concerns within our own caucus, trying to work through some of the issues, and I think that is ridiculous because you want us to have concerns. You want us to make sure that we're actually reducing the cost of healthcare and creating more accessibility. You do not want what happened 8 years ago when 2,000 pages of legislation were signed in the middle of the night when no one knew what was in it. Even the leader Pelosi said that. And I guarantee you there aren't many Democrats today who can tell you what's in there. And there aren't many Democrats who can tell you today how your health insurance is going to be affected this year with Obamacare because they've pushed it to try to, for political reasons. Now, that's not the right way to do things. The right way is to have a dialogue. It is to have a seat at the table to make sure that we get it right for people. It's 1/6 of the economy. So if you're out there watching and you're a Democrat, I think that you shouldn't be telling your Democrat, if you're in our district, obviously I'm your congressman, but if you're not in our district, they should be having a seat at the table. I think it's wrong for Republicans to just ram things down. I think they have to have a seat at the table. I think they should have done the same thing 8 years ago, and we would be mistaken if we don't have them. Now, we can't bring them to the table. So I think it's extremely important that they come to the table and make sure that some of the things that they want are there. I will tell you, I will not support something. I will not support healthcare replacement that doesn't have something for pre-existing conditions. I want to tell you that. I think it's imperative that we have something for pre-existing conditions. I don't think there's anybody out there that's watching that doesn't have somebody in their family that doesn't have a pre-existing condition. It has to be there. I think that's important. It's important that the folks who have coverage right now continue to have coverage. It's important that there is a transition period that allows them to do that while people are working through it. There are some out there who might criticize and say it needs to repeal. If you're going to repeal it, you have to replacement. You can't replace it without a repeal. That's just not how it works. It sounds good in a soundbite, but that's just not how it works. And it is prudent for us to work through these issues to make sure that we are getting it right. I think that there's no question out there that Obamacare is failing. And there's no question that there are many people out there right now who are hurting really badly, who are in the middle class, who have now been rendered almost working poor because they have to choose between health care, mortgage payments, and it's crowding out their budget. That is not what we want for health care. Now, there are 4% of folks that were not able to get coverage before that are on Obamacare. And we're talking about high-risk pools to be able to make sure that they have coverage. And I think that is also important. So I will tell you, we're working through the issue, and I'm committed to you to doing that, to reducing the cost of health care, actually doing that, and also expanding coverage. And I don't think Obamacare, adding layers of bureaucracy all over the place, actually, of course it doesn't, because you send money up and it gets eaten up in bureaucracy. No, we've been disrupted and many industries have been disrupted. Healthcare is ripe for disruption and technology. I'd like to see some of that implemented so we actually reduce the cost. So I hope that answered your question. It was long and drawn out answer, sorry.
Sure. One of the questions that we've gotten several times tonight
wait a minute. No, Americans should not be forced to have health care. I do not support a mandate in health care. Just getting that out. That's also people ask about.
What is your opinion on Steve Bannon being appointed to the National Security Council?
So, I was doing an interview today on CNN International, I think it was, and Christiane Amanpour was saying, what do you think about this alt-right ideologue? Which I think is, I don't think that you should, if you're a journalist, you should be saying those things. That being said, I don't know Steve Bannon, but what I will tell you is, just like one of the Obama administration when they had Ben Rhodes in there, who is a political operative, Steve Bannon is a political operative. I don't know him, he might be a nice guy, might not be, I don't know. I don't think neither one of those people add value to a national security council. So I actually don't support the move that just happened under the administration. I think it's wrong. I don't think that he adds value to be just like with Ben Rhodes, where those guys are they're political actors, they're political spin guys. So it doesn't make you more safe, and I just don't support it. Regardless of who he is, I don't know him, so.